Hello aspirants, good evening, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss one of the most important UPSC mains topic, which is also having its own significance in the GSPAPER-1 modern Indian history. So as a part of the previous video continuation, we are now going to discuss about the social issues concept with the topic name Regionalism, its dimensions, meaning and issues. Before entering into our discussion, please do subscribe, like, share and comment, and thank you very much for your previous responses as well. And many of the aspirants are asking about the PDF content, so you can ping me directly to my WhatsApp number so that I can share with you that. So now let us start this regionalism, which comes under the category of general studies, GSPAPER-1, social issues. So what exactly do we mean by this regionalism? To understand regionalism, we need to know various dimensions of the region. Region as a geographical unit is delimited from each other. Region is as a social system reflects the relation between different human beings and groups. Regions are an organized cooperation in cultural, economic, political and military fields. And this region acts as a subject with distinct identity, language, culture and tradition. So based on this definition, regionalism is nothing but an ideology and a political movement from the ancient times which seeks for the advance of the causes of regions as of now. And as a process, it plays role within the nation as well as outside the nation. So both types of regionalism, national regionalism and international regionalism, has its own different meaning and have a positive as well as negative impact on the society, where it constitutes its own polity, diplomacy, economy, security, culture, development, negotiations, traditions, etc., etc. And at the international level, regionalism refers to transnational cooperation to meet a common goal. And this is the point for your mains which we need to highlight. At the international level, regionalism refers to the transnational cooperation to meet a common goal or to resolve a shared problem, or it refers to a group of countries such as Western Europe, Southeast Asia, which was linked to the geographical patterns, their history, their economic features, their cultural traditions, etc. So with this sense, regionalism is nothing but which is referring to attempts to reinforce the links between these countries and economic features. And as a part of that, the term regionalism at the national level refers to the process in which sub-state actors become increasingly powerful. Power devolves from central level to regional governments. These are the regions within the country which were distinguished in culture, language and other socio-cultural factors. So now we are going to discuss in detail about regionalism within the nation, that is with respect to India only, and then we will discuss about regionalism at the international level as well. So let us have an idea on this regionalism within the nation. If the interest of one region or a state is asserted against the country as a whole or against any other state, and if a conflict is prompted by such alleged interests, then it is called as regionalism. So this point is clearly saying that within a nation, within our Indian context, if there are two states and they are striving for the common goal, but there are some conflicts, some differences which are rising in between, and that really leads for a regionalism concept. And if someone is aspiring to make some special efforts to develop one state or region, or to remove poverty and make social justice, then that cannot be called as regionalism. So please keep a point in your mind. So if the states are making some special efforts in order to eradicate the poverty and to provide the social justice to the people of the state, that cannot be called as regionalism. So regionalism doesn't mean defending the federal features of the constitution. Any demand for separate state or autonomous region or for devolution of power below the state level is also sometimes we confuse as regionalism, which is not the real meaning. So the roots of regionalism in India mainfold based on the diversity of languages, cultures, ethnic groups, communities, religions, whatnot, everything. So simply saying the root for regionalism in India is the diversity, and that diversity encouraged by the regional concentration in order to get the identity, which was fueled by a sense of regional deprivation. So because of the discriminations which are being shown by other regions within the context of India, that is the real root for the regionalism in India. Since many centuries, India remained the land of many lands, regions, cultures and traditions. That itself, in a simple way, we can call it as diversity. And hence, based on this diversity itself, the roots for regionalism in India was encouraged. So for instance, let us take an example. Let us take an example here. Southern India. Southern India, we can call it as the home for Dravidians or the Dravidian cultures, which is itself a region for many regions, which is evidently different from the north. It is also different from the west, the central and the northeast. Even the east of our India is different from the northeast of India, comprising today 7 constituent units of Indian Federation with the largest concentration of tribal population. And this you can easily understand by this diagram itself. So here it is very clear that these Dravidian languages, the south states, are different from the west, different from the east, different from the center, different from the north and different from the northeast. And each regions of our federal country is having its own unique diversities. And this can be seen as one of the major reasons to support the statement diversity is the root cause for regionalism in India. So there are many types of diversities, either maybe the cultural, the economic, the regional, the religion, other traditions or many other geographical conditions. So regionalism has remained perhaps the most potent force in Indian politics ever since independence. It has remained the main basis of many regional political parties which have governed many states since the late 1960s. And hence there are 3 clear patterns which can be identified in the post-independence phases of accommodation of regional identity through the statehood. And there comes the 3 different patterns which can be identified in the post-independence are as follows. First, in the 1950s and 1960s, the intense ethnic mass mobilization, which often taking on a violent character, was the main force behind the state's response with an institutional package for the statehood. In order to understand this mass mobilization or the root cause for the regionalism, Let us take an example here to the state of Andhra Pradesh in India. And we know that the state of Andhra Pradesh in India, south of our India, showed the way, where the fast unto death in 1952 of the legendary Telugu leader Potti Sriramulu for a state for the Telugu speakers out of the composite Madras presidency moved an otherwise reluctant Jawaharlal Nehru, a top nationalist leader, and it was followed by State Reorganization Commission under Fazil Ali, paving the way for the State Reorganization Act 1956. And this clearly says that mass mobilization with the efforts of the regional leaders really triggered the movements in the first phases, especially between 1950s and 1960s. And in the second phase, between 1970s and 1980s, the main focus of reorganization of India's northeast can be seen. In the second phase, between 1970s and 80s, northeast evolution started. The basis of reorganization was tribal insurgency. Very important. Why this happened? The main reason is tribal insurgency for the separation from the statehood. The main institutional response of the Union government was the Northeastern States Reorganization Act, which came into effect in the year 1971, which really upgraded the Union territories of Manipur and Tripura and the substate of Meghalaya to full statehood status, and Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh, which were previously the tribal districts, to the Union territories. And then over a period of time, in the year 1986, Goa, based on Konkani language, which was placed under 8th schedule, which also became a state in 1987, was the sole exception. So this is the second phase of the three most important patterns of regionalism in India. And the third phase, more important, the movements for the three new states, especially in the year 2000, which were created with the names called Chhattisgarh from Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand divided from Bihar, and Uttarachal, nothing but Uttarakhand, which was divided from Uttar Pradesh, was long drawn but became vigorous in 1990s. And the most recent one we can also observe in the division of Andhra Pradesh, giving a separate Telangana, which started in 1950s and finally succeeded in the year 2014 by making Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. So now, for the mains examination point of view, what are the most important causes behind the regionalism in India? So there are two most important factors which can be seen as the potential cause for regionalism in India. One is the cultural discrimination. Second one is the regional economic inequality. See, regionalism could have flourished in India if any state or region had felt that it was being culturally dominated or culturally discriminated. And the economic inequality which is existing within the regions of India is a potent time bomb directed against the national unity, because it can be seen as a threat to the national unity and political stability. But this potential cause did not take the shape of regionalism. Why? In the sense, even though these two can be seen as the factors for the regionalism in India, the true shape of regionalism in India is not still highlighting. Why? In the sense, because of the steps taken by the government, which focused on the balanced regional development and fulfilled the aspirations of the states. So here you need to understand how this government is going to provide that balanced regional development in order to fulfill the demands of the states, in the sense, the more important industrial policies were introduced in India right from 1952 itself. Indian Industrial Policy 1952, and in the year 1956 Industrial Policy. Likewise, in order to integrate all the states, National Integration Council was also established in the year 1961, and transferring of financial resources to the backward states or the poor states on the recommendations of the Finance Commission. So these are certain major steps taken by the government of India in order to balance and to protect the federal characteristics of our Indian Constitution by uniting all the states, by balancing the regional development and fulfill the demands of the states. And it is very important that the planning became an important tool through Planning Commission, and 5-year plans were also introduced. And the new governments which are coming into place is planning to devolve the planning power to the respective states so that they can do the planning with a real-time approach of their respective needs and requirements. And hence we need to understand here the central government has categorized the states on the basis of backwardness. So the word backwardness is not having any particular definition technically, even though according to that definitions over a period of time which is changing frequently, grants and loans were given to the states. So in the year 2013, the Raghuram Rajan Committee recommended a new index to define the backwardness for the states. Which state need a special help from the central government? And here, please keep a point in your mind. According to this only, 10 equally weighted indicators were placed. 10 equally weighted indicators were placed. So which committee recommended these 10 most important points? Raghuram Rajan Committee. According to that only, Odisha and Bihar were stated as the most backward states in India even today. So now let us understand the regular policy investment by the central government through central sponsored schemes were also focused in order to tackle the backwardness of the states. So there might be a question asking in our mains examination, what are the main measures which can be taken by the government of India to tackle this backwardness of the states? Obviously, the first one is nothing but regular public investment. Regular public investment. So what exactly it is? Regular public investment is nothing but directly with an intention to provide a social welfare. The government of India is budgeting. That is what the point is. Along with that, centrally sponsored schemes were introduced, which are mainly focusing on the development of necessary infrastructure, both social and economic. And they have taken some measures like eradication of poverty as a part of the 5-year plans itself, integrated rural development, village development, khadi industries development type of things also came into picture. Education was given the highest priority. Even the recent education policy is also saying the same. Health policy of India, the recent one, is also concentrating even today. Family planning is one of the measures taken by the government of India to tackle this backwardness. So government at the center and the states give incentives to the private players. So for example, to understand the most important schemes with an intention of social welfare and to balance all the regions in India were Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, Midday Meal Scheme, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Jan Dhan Yojana, whatnot. There are many types of schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, which are directly concentrating in order to balance the differences between the regions or the states within India. Central government and the states also gave incentives to the private players, as I said, to develop in backward states through subsidies, taxation, etc., where they are encouraging the private people to come and invest in the states directly so that they can generate some employment, either direct or in indirect way. So FDIs are also giving and playing a major role in order to eradicate this, in order to fill the gaps between the regions of India. Nationalization of banks, granting new banking licenses like Bharati Mahila Bank recent past, also making a mandatory for the banks to open at the rural branches. RRBs came into picture, are the few other steps for inclusive development and balanced regional development here. So these are all the steps and measures taken by the central government in order to tackle the backwardness of the states. And there are certain discrepancies at the implementation of the parts of these schemes. We need to accept that. So few areas have been neglected, like irrigation, which has created agricultural disparity. Rain-fed and dry-land agriculture also have been neglected, which became the cause for the suicide of farmers in various states, especially recently in the state of Maharashtra, where a mob violence can also be seen as a result of that. And such issues of these farmer suicides were highlighted recently by P. Sainath committee, which is clearly saying that it is only because of the negligence of the government of India or the center which is not coping up with the challenges related to this farmer suicide. So in reality, the interstate industrial disparity is also another cause, agricultural disparity is another cause. BPL families are increasing day by day in the states are also one of the causes which are decreasing, and these are encouraging, but more actions are needed to completely eradicate these disparities is the call for the hour. So these are the points which we need to remember like anything. And hence, even though the government of India is coming up with various government schemes with an intention of the welfare of the state, still in India, why regional disparity is existing? And hence we need to understand the reasons behind this. And in those reasons, the first one is low rate of economic growth. So the economic growth of India has been fluctuating since independence, we all know that. But with respect to high population growth, the economic growth has been not enough to catch the development with full speed. Basically, population growth should be directly proportional to the economic growth of any country. But in India, it is not up to the mark. And we cannot say that it is inversely proportional. This is absolutely wrong. It is not up to the mark is the point which we need to highlight. And in the last decade, the economic growth were progressive. So it is in increasing mode only. But now they are reeling under the influence of world economic crisis and other bottlenecks at the domestic level. And the recent pandemic COVID-19 is also showing its effect on the world economic growths and developments, which really throwing the great developed countries, including the USA, into the economic crisis. So to the fact related statistical data, low rate of economic growth is one of the main reason even to India, where it is also can be seen to make possible that this regionalism is still existing. And the second most important reason is socio-economic and political organization of the states. See, the states have been unable to do the adequate land reforms and feudal mentality still persists. So land reforms were not up to the mark in the state land reforms were not up to the mark. Even the governments are coming up with various policies which are being introducing in order to distribute the land to the landless poor. It is not up to the mark, and still feudal mentality in the society is existing. And more importantly, the Bhudan and Gramdan movements, especially the Bhudan and Gramdan, these movements after independence were not that much encouraged and carried forward. Even land under the banks, even the land under the banks were not efficiently distributed. And the political activities in the backward states were limited to vote bank politics and scams, and hence socio-economic and political organizations of the states is also triggered as the main reason behind the regionalism. So this is what the point related to the second cause. And then comes the third one, the lower level of infrastructural facilities in backward states. So the level of infrastructural development such as power distribution, irrigational facilities, road infrastructure development, modern markets for agricultural produce. So like these type of infrastructural development was totally in a backstage. And all these type of infrastructural development, as I said, the power distribution, irrigation facilities, road infrastructure, modern markets, these are all comes under the state subjects itself. And hence states are also failing. The state governments were also failing to make legislations accordingly. And hence lower infrastructural facilities in backward states is also one of the reasons for the regionalism. And then comes the low level of socio expenditure by the states, especially on education, health and sanitation, is also one of the cause, because these subjects are core for the human resource development. The states which have invested heavily on these subjects fall under the development and advanced states. So for example, Tamil Nadu, where healthcare services in primary health centers is benchmark for other states. Likewise, every state should come up with new challenges where it should take a stand for making a nodal agency in order to fulfill their criteria, especially in the social expenditure. And then comes the political and administration failure. So this is the source for tension and gives birth to sub-regional movements for separate states. Political and administration failure is the core reason behind the rise of tension, which results in the rise of sub-regional movements for separate states. And that is the reason why in the year 2000, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand were formed as a new states. And even in 2014, Telangana state was formed by separating from Andhra Pradesh. And there are 40 plus regional movements, sub-regional movements still existing in India. This is only because of the political mechanism failure and the administrative failures of the states itself. And for your understanding, many such type of demands, as I said, are in a pipeline, such as the Vidarbha region from Maharashtra, Saurashtra from Gujarat, Darjeeling and Bodoland issues are still existing, which clearly intensifies that these failures also weakens the confidence of the private players, where they are not having that interest to come up to invest in the states, and they do not attract the investors in the states. And hence it is a clear-cut failure of the political and administration failure. So government should focus on this. And in order to cope up these type of regional disparities and the reasons for these regional disparities, the concept of son of the soil came into picture. So son of the soil doctrine explains the form of regionalism which is in discussion since 1950, especially in our Indian subcontinent. So why son of the soil? There remains a competition for job between migrant and the local educated middle class. So in order to understand these points here, first let us understand the son of the soil doctrine. The son of the soil doctrine explains a form of regionalism, and according to that, states specifically belong to a main linguistic group inhabiting it, or to the state constitutes the exclusive homeland of its main language speakers, who are the sons of the soil or the local residents. So this is what the point, what this doctrine, son of the soil, is explaining. So it is clearly saying that local priorities to be given, and that locals can be defined based on the language where the local people are speaking, and the status of local residents is to be given to those people. So the question here, why son of the soil comes into picture, and there why son of the soil in the sense the competition between the migrant and the local educated middle class youth is increasing day by day, and hence in order to cope up with this challenge, the locals are to be given the first priority, especially in education and in employment. And in the second one, this theory mostly work in cities because the outsiders can be seen more in the cities and towns but not in rural areas. And the son of the soil doctrine is majorly involving the people. It is only during the increase of the aspirations of the local demands. And the economy's failure to create enough employment opportunity is also one of the reasons why a strong voice is coming out to support the son of the soil doctrine. And hence, we need to understand the true colors of regionalism in India can be seen with the name called clashes. So, clashes in India having the colors of regionalism as well. So, in order to understand this, just have a look here. Linguistic reorganization of states. This is the first most important clash. See, it was demand of Potti Sriramulu, a freedom fighter and a devoted follower of Mahatma Gandhi, that led to the creation of Andhra Pradesh state and linguistic recognition of the states in India. To achieve this end, he died in 1952 after not eating for 52 days in support of Telugu-speaking state formation. And that Sriramulu's death forced Jawaharlal Nehru to agree to the various demands from other parts of the country with similar demands. And consequently, in 1954, a states reorganization committee was formed under the chairmanship of Fazil Ali, which recommended directly the formation of 16 new states and 3 UTs based on the language. And hence, language is going to play a major role, which can be seen as a clash for the rise of regionalism in India. And see, the second one, demand for Dravida Nadu. So, going back to the journey of regionalism in India, it is well noticeable that it emerged in Dravidian movement. Dravidian movement originally started in the year 1925 as a part of our Indian national movement in Tamil Nadu region. But this movement is also called, Dravidian movement is also called self-respect movement. Initially focused on empowering the Dalits, non-Brahmins and poor people. But later it stood against imposition of Hindi as sole official language on non-Hindi speaking areas. But it was the demand of carving out their own Dravidistan, also called Dravida Nadu, which made it a great movement in the ever history of Indian regionalism movements. As early as 1960s, the DMK and the non-Tamil organized groups, a joint campaign was also mobilized throughout the total Madras state, demanding and pressuring the Indian government, making it as an independent sovereign state of Tamil Nadu. And DMK proposed that the states of Madras, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala and Mysore should secede from the Indian Union and form an independent republic of Dravidian Nadu. And still it is existing in our South India. So DMK directly pressured the central government to divide the South Indian states from the Union of India. And this type of demand of Dravidian Nadu is also seen as a mass clash right from 1925 with the name called self-respect movement till 1960s, and till even today it is existing, which is also one of the cause for the regionalism in India. And then came the Shiv Sena against Kannadigas. 1966, the Shiv Sena of Maharashtra launched its agitation against these Kannadigas in the name of Marathi pride. The first targets of this agitation were South Indians who were the workers of Udupi hotels in Mumbai. And this agitation was labeled to be a retaliation of the Lati charge in Marathi speaking people in the border areas. Still, even today, it is existing. And then comes the Bodoland demand with Assam. The Bodo agitation, which is led by the Assam Bodo Students Union, which is demanding a separate state and has resorted to wide-scale violence, where it as a process of crippling bunds to pursue their demand. One of the basic reasons behind these Assam agitations is because of the expansion of education, particularly the higher education, where the job creating institutions are totally marginalized, increasing the army of the educated youths in the backward regions. And these frustrated young educated people involved in this movement against the inflow of the people from other countries at the border states. On the other hand, these unemployed youth are also attracted by the caste, communal and other sectional agitations fighting for the protection of rights on secretariat levels. So what the objective when it was formed, but how it is taking its shape by the end of the day. That is what we can come across in this Bodoland demand with Assam. Likewise, we are having this Kalikistan movement, 1980s movement, which is revolving around the Sikh homeland. They want to divide that Punjab region of India and Pakistan, to divide from that union and they want to make as a separate state, where the colors of communalism can also be seen as a demand only by the Sikhs. And then comes the attacks of Bihar laborers by the Ulfa countries to attempt this attacks on the government security forces in 2003 can be seen. So attacks of Bihar by Ulfa is in the year 2003. So based on these, many types of agitations are coming into picture. Likewise, there are many things here. I just highlighted the important ones which we need to trigger in our mains examination. Likewise, the MNS targeting the North Indians and the interstate disputes. Interstate disputes related to all forms of interstate disputes. Boundary disputes, for example, Karnataka and Maharashtra on Belgaum region, where Marathi speaking population is surrounded by Kannada speaking people, and in between Kerala and Karnataka on Kasorgad, and in between Assam and Nagaland on Regma reserve forests. Likewise, there are also water disputes between the states itself, where Godavari tribunals, Krishna tribunals came into picture, which is not up to the mark. And hence the first important dispute of this Narmada, Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari between the South Indian states itself are having the clashes, which is also a reason for the regionalism in India. And that is also one of the more important reason. Interstate disputes is the one of the most important reason for the creation of three most states, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand, which was formed in the year 2000, where political agitations were also started, where within the political structure of India, division was started. Based on the socio-political and non-linguistic new states formation, based on these causes, new states were formed. So these are all the clashes in India which are having the true colors of regionalism. So in India, regionalism can be seen in what way? In the sense, in these types. And we should understand here that the impact of regionalism in India is having both positive as well as negative. Let us discuss these positive points. See, basically the scholars believe that regionalism plays an important role in building of the nation, and it is true. But if the demands of the regions are accommodated by the political system of the country only, then it is going to play an important role in building of the nation. A regional recognition in terms of statehood or by giving the state autonomy, which really gives the self-determination to the people of that particular region, and they feel very empowered and happy. And so the internal self-determination of the community, whether linguistic, tribal, religious or regional, whatever it is, or in the true combinations, has remained the predominant form in which regionalism in India has sought to express itself historically as well as at the present time we can observe. And regional identities in India have not always defined themselves in opposition. See, for example, Tripura Tribal Autonomous District Council, which was formed in 1985, if I am not wrong, has served to protect the endangered tribal identity in the state by providing a democratic platform. So, such a type of positives can also be seen as a part of this regionalism. Whereas on the other side of the coin, regionalism is also having some negative shades, which often seen as a serious threat to the development, progress and unity of a nation. The internal security challenges will rise because of the insurgent groups who propagate the feelings of regionalism against the mainstream political administrative setup in the country. The democratic declining part can also be seen as a negative shade of this regionalism. Regionalism definitely impacts the politics because of the coalition governments which are coming into picture, the alliances which are taking its shape in the center. The regional demands became the national demands. Policies are launched to satisfy regional demands and generally those are extended to all pockets of the country. And hence national policies are now dominated by the regional demands, which is really a great threat to country's development. And some regional leaders are also going to play a politics of vote bank based on language, culture, and this is certainly against the healthy democratic procedures. And for this to understand, in the state of Andhra Pradesh recently, the opposition leader Chandrababu Naidu is also playing a major role in order to dilute the government policies and all, where he is making an intervention policies, making an alliance with different states, important leaders, where he is going and meeting to those leaders, where the internal regional aspirations of Andhra Pradesh state is going to be highlighted at the central level, which is really a threat to the other states which can also come up with those type of ideologies. And development plans are implemented unevenly because of this regionalism. And because of these negative impacts, only the political leaders are going to be benefited, and in the society the social unrest can be generated, law and order can be disturbed, agitations will come into picture, massive violence can come into picture. Ultimately government is compelled to take harsh steps, where communism over a period of time can be replaced in the place of democracy. So such a type of regionalism is a hurdle to the international diplomacy as well. And the regionalism which induced the violence to the whole society, where the people are killed, students cannot attend to the schools and colleges, tourism cannot be promoted, developmental activities were fully stopped, and this impacts on the development of human resource. Government needs to deploy extra forces to control the situation, which then resulted in the direct implication of the economy of the nation. And these impacted societies remain a lot from the mainstream development, and then the regional variations and backwardness is clearly reflected. So on the broader context, it harms India's status in global arena as well, and becomes hurdle in becoming global power or the world leader. So other than the evolution of regionalism in India and its impact, it is also associated, discussed with the nationalism and federalism as well. And this nationalism and federalism are the two most important aspects which are the call for the day, where the governments are going to take a point of stand, so that Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat type of policies, Make in India, Digital India, such a type of great policies will come into picture. So we should stand and say united, that we are united, and the role played by the Indian federalism in ensuring the India's unity, stability and survival as a polity in the face of persistent regionalism, often verging on a separation rooted in the manifold and complex social and cultural diversity, which really eradicates the poverty, illiteracy and the extreme regional unevenness in the development, and widespread of the inequality can be totally demolished from our country. But this question has assumed special significance in the aftermath of the disintegration of multi-ethnic and multinational Soviet Union and the split of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in the international level. So we need to understand such a type of histories as well, and based on that we need to come up with these challenges, and based on that only now today we are having this so-called old order and new order which came into existence. And this diagram is clearly talking about how the previous and the new ones are coming into picture. And as a part of this impact of regionalism in the world, and the role of India in that is also very important to understand, and that is what this diagram is talking about. So APEC countries came into picture, ASEM, European Union came into picture, ASEAN countries came into picture, ASEAN plus 3 came into picture, PIF came into picture, SARC, BRICS, whatnot, everything came into picture. And hence we need to understand, based on this only, the new regionalism is taking its shape in the multipolar world order. And this new regionalism and multipolarity are in fact the two sides of the same coin. The new is a more spontaneous process, a dynamic approach within the regions where the constituent states now experience the need for the cooperation in order to tackle new global changes. The regionalism is thus one of the coping with global transformation, since most states lack the capacity and means to manage such a task on the national level. And this new often described as an open. So the new regionalism is nothing but the open regionalism, which is having the global structural transformation in which no state actors can be seen. So these are all the points related to this regionalism impact and its significance. So in order to conclude this, finally I would like to say with a small statement related to this, which was appeared in our Hindu newspaper. See, we have seen how regionalism could be good or bad for the nation as well as for the group of nations. The Constitution of India under Article 19 gives every citizen a fundamental right to move around and settle down peacefully in any part of the country. And as a citizen of India, everyone should respect this fundamental right of every person, avoiding clashes like Shiv Sena does in Maharashtra. So the need of the hour is to develop each region of India through devolution of power to local governments and empowering the people for their participation in decision making. The governments at the state level need to find out the alternative resources of energy, sources of employment for the local people, use of technology in governance, planning and for agricultural development, and especially the 12th 5-year plan targets for faster, sustainable and more inclusive growth, which will be an instrumental for balanced regional growth. The region blocks like BRICS, ASEAN are developing more negotiation compatibilities for economic needs of the region and for climatic change negotiations. So in this perspective, the dependency on the World Bank, IMF for developmental projects is also being complemented by the new commitments of the BRICS Bank, new developmental banks, etc. So in future, the integration of the different regions will give every nation the due respect and due importance to their needs. Their exotic and unique things are getting exposure at international level, and no one will feel left out. The whole world will be a global village with unique regions within, and that is what we termed it as cooperation, cooperative federalism. So in order to cope up with all these regionalism challenges, cooperative federalism is the only mechanism which I believe in personal. So this is all about our today's video discussion under the topic of regionalism, its dimensions, meaning and issues. Hope this video will helpful to the serious candidates. So please make every point a note by putting it on the paper, so that you can easily understand what it really means. So this is all for the video. Thank you very much. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe. And for more updates, click the bell icon there.